Wealthy countries, including the UK, are blocking proposals to help developing nations increase their vaccine manufacturing capabilities. This is according to documents leaked to BBC Newsnight. Deborah Cohen explains.
In recent days, the EU and UK have been taking the wrong kind of jabs at each other over frustrations around vaccine supply. But there is, of course, a bigger picture. Only when the global population is being protected from COVID will many of us feel life returning to normal. But there's a catch. Should governments effectively go over the heads of the limited number of vaccine manufacturers in order to increase supply?
The global capacity for producing vaccines is around 3.5 billion, while 10 billion is needed. Additionally, these vaccines that are produced in wealthy countries and are in general kept by those wealthy countries. And developing nations are saying we need to have a share of the pie, not only the share of the vaccines, but also the share of the right to produce these vaccines.
To make a vaccine, you not only need to have the right to produce the actual substance they're composed of, which is protected by patents, you also need to have the knowledge about how to make them, because the technology can be complex. The World Health Organization does not have the authority to sidestep patents, but it's trying to bring countries together to find a way to bolster vaccine supplies. Newsnight has been leaked a draft of WHO discussions about how to improve global vaccine supply and enable poorer countries to make them. The document reveals just how polarised the debate is. Developing countries, most of which have not been given a single vaccine, want the ability to make them. But some richer countries with access to the vaccines are blocking efforts to do this. The discussions aren't just about COVID, but the pandemic has made them all the more relevant.
What growing calls are being made for is to increase the number of companies and laboratories around the world with the ability to produce vaccines, including in developing world countries. And so this text is about trying to facilitate that. So the UK is actually largely playing, I would argue, a negative role. So where we could have language in there that would make it easier for countries to produce more vaccines and more medicines within their country, where it would include initiatives that would finance and facilitate that to happen, the UK is on the opposite side of the argument, trying to remove those kinds of progressive proposals from the text.
But while campaigners say we should enable more suppliers in different countries to make COVID vaccines, drug company representatives have deep concerns. Earlier this month, they wrote to President Biden to share their worries.
Eliminating those protections would undermine the global response to the pandemic, including ongoing effort to tackle new variants, create confusion that could potentially undermine public confidence in vaccine safety, and create a barrier to information sharing. Most importantly, eliminating protections would not speed up production.
But campaigners say it goes both ways. They argue that around £90 billion of public money has gone into developing COVID treatments and vaccines, and the public should have a stake. And once the pandemic ends, there's a lot of money to be made. This was Pfizer executives last week.
What I believe is as we move from a pandemic state, from a pandemic situation to an endemic situation, normal market forces, normal market conditions will start to kick in. And factors like efficacy, booster ability, clinical utility will, basically become very important. And we view that as, quite frankly, a significant opportunity.
It's obvious that their longer-term plan is to increase the price of these vaccines once the most urgent phase of the pandemic is over. So that is another reason why developing countries are saying we need to gain the ability to produce these vaccines ourselves now. There's another aspect, of course, that is if you increase the knowledge of vaccine production in other parts or in all parts of the world, you also help to be much better prepared for the next pandemic.
If and when governments should intervene to ensure affordable supplies of medicines is a long-standing issue, but it may be a global pandemic that focuses minds on whether Big Pharma has the world exactly where it wants it.